Hello friends, today we will be talking about hotspots of diversity in India. As we all know, the diversity is on decline, and late in the early 90s it was being realized that this biological wealth is of immense importance to the survival of living beings on this planet. We were deriving so many benefits out of this biodiversity. And in an effort to conserve this valuable wealth, Dr. Norman Mayers coined the term biodiversity hotspots in 1988. This was in a book called The Environmentalist. At that time, it was defined as Earth's biologically richest and most endangered terrestrial ecoregions. Therefore, it was interpreted that more attention was given to the terrestrial landforms and the places were identified which were rich in biodiversity, which had immense potential for unique plant and animal species, and along with that regions equally were under threat. That means they were under pressure because of increasing urbanization or maybe because of growing newer methods of agriculture that were coming up. So, out of these hotspots that were formed, mainly 25 hotspots were recognized all over the world, out of which 2 were there in India. Basically, to qualify as a hotspot, a region must meet 2 criteria. Basically, 2 criteria were set up. Number 1 was, it must contain at least 1500 species of vascular plants as endemics, or in other words 0.5% of the total plants of the world that should be there in that particular region, and it has to have 70% of its original habitat lost. It signifies that first the endemism, those plants must be situated at that particular place of the world only, and they were not found at any other place. That was the first criteria, that was called endemism, and the second one was the degree of threat that they pose, as it was that the 70% of the species were lost because of n number of factors. Therefore, the endemism and the degree of threat that they face, on the basis of these 2 criteria, the places were selected, and afterwards in 2005, the Conservation International published an updated title, and it was called Hotspots Revisited. The criteria remained the same, again the same 2 parameters were considered, and according to this, 34 hotspots of diversity are identified at the global level. Basically, now addition was there because the newer threats were coming in the places adjoining the islands, in the mountainous regions, and in the deep forest. The new places were identified, but basic criteria for selecting the biodiversity hotspot remained the same. These biodiversity hotspots represent 2.3% of Earth's land surface, but over 50% of the world plant species and 42% of all the terrestrial vertebrate species are endemic to these areas. That means a huge number of plant and the animal diversity is present in these areas, and they cover only 2.3% of the land surface. But the saddening part is that overall, hotspots have lost around 86% of their original habitat and are considered to be significantly threatened by extinctions induced by climate change. As we all know, the growing concerns of climate change, global warming, etc. are taking place, and because of this, there is a threat that since now 86% of the species we have been lost. But now in the coming times, if the trend continues of pollution, environmental degradation and the climate change which is severely affecting these important places, we may soon lose all the valuable plant and the animal species. Therefore, there is a need to conserve this biodiversity hotspots at any level. Out of 34, India has 4 global biodiversity hotspots. They are the Great Himalayas, the Indo-Burma region, the Western Ghats including Sri Lanka, part of it, and the Sundaland. Initially, when the first concept was hotspot was there, only 3 were included, the Himalayas, Indo-Burma and the Western Ghats. However, the land of Sundaland is a newer addition which comprises of the islands basically. The Nicobar group of islands are included in this. India ranks among the top 10 species rich nations and shows high endemism. That is the glory of the plant wealth that we are having, that lot many plants and the species of animals we are having endemism to them. And India's biodiversity hotspots cover a significant proportion, that is 16.86% of the total global area under biodiversity hotspots. So, great volume of the region is there in the hotspots. That means they are eco-sensitive regions. They are the heritage sites where the plant diversity is immense. They can be put to use in so many ways and which are most important for maintaining the ecosystem services which are sustaining the planet. And among the hotspots, if we divide India's political boundaries, the Western Ghats account for 64.95%, that is the highest one. The major area of the hotspots in India is covered by the Western Ghats. This is also known as the hottest hotspot because it contains good diversity of the plant species. The Indo-Burma region comprises of 5.13%, Himalayas comprise 44.37% and the Sundaland comprises of 1.28%. So, this shows that which hotspot contains how much of the area, but however, the diversity which is present in them can be immense. For example, Sundaland, however, it contains a very less area, but it has got immense biodiversity which needs to be protected. And basically, Indian hotspots are in danger because of n number of factors. There are so many issues which are coming up. For example, there is a population pressures, there is a urbanization, people are coming out of the remote places, and there, because of this increasing pressure, there is demand for raw materials, and therefore, we are extracting more and more of things from these forests. Indiscriminate selective logging of trees. The trees are being cut down. Trees are being cut down for construction works also. Trees are cut down for raw material procurement also. Trees are cut down for meeting the industrial needs also. And that is mainly because of the population pressures and the growing globalization which we are having today. Then there is monoculture agricultural practices. The traditional food choices, the traditional crops, the millets which we used to grow earlier, that is now all gone. Basically, we are growing the cash crops which have got a market outside. So, in an attempt to grow the monoculture plantations, we are losing the biodiversity in the sense that when there is a local breed of plants growing, they have got their local pollination, they have got their local mechanism to adapt to the environmental changes whichever are taking place. They are suitable according to the needs of the people who are living in the forest, basically the tribals. And when we go for monocultures, basically it is the same kind of plants which are growing. They are being fed up with the same chemical fertilizers and the pesticides. There is no crop rotation kind of a thing going on, and in a way the forests are being cut down and the same species crops are being planted. So, this ultimately hinders the biodiversity. It is a loss to the biodiversity because monocultures cannot give that biological wealth which exists only in the pristine and the natural conditions. Then there is over exploitation of the natural resources. Now, these natural resources may be the trees, they may be the grasslands, they may be the soil, they may be water, or the minerals which we are extracting from these forests. So, basically these hotspots, wherever they are present, they contain immense wealth. The natural wealth is too much, and because of the presence, we are extracting more and more from these places. And apart from it, the chances of global warming, the threats coming out of the climate change, they are everywhere. The proximity to the oceans is there. If you look at the Himalayas, there are good chances there are disasters taking place. Because of the disasters which takes place in the Himalayan region or the regions which are near the oceans, the floods are coming in the rivers. Now, altogether all these factors act in a combined manner and they pose a threat to the biodiversity. Because when we disturb the ecological balance, when we disturb the plants, the trees, the local resources, whichever we are there, because of the unplanned development practices which are mainly unsustainable in nature, when we go from them, automatically the climate change impacts become more severe. The agricultural patterns have changed, and so as the biological wealth is deteriorating day by day. So, number 1, we move on to the hotspots. The Himalayas are the hotspot with rich spectrum of species of flora as well as fauna, and it is popularly known as the cradle of speciation. It means that most of the plant species have the Himalayas as the center of origin. The commercial plants, for example, wild palm, coconut, all these have originated in the Himalayas. So, Himalayas are the center of origin for many plant species, and they are the rich spectrum of the species are present in the Himalayas. Because 30 years back, these places were inaccessible. So, the flourishment of the plants took place at that time. So, Himalayas includes the eastern Himalayan region. It is divided into eastern and the western Himalayas. If we compare the eastern and the western Himalayas are more high, the eastern Himalayas are wet, the rainfall patterns are more there, and they comprise of a rich diversity of flowering plants, the angiosperms, they are more there, whereas the eastern Himalayas are basically cold. Western Himalayas comprises of Kashmir and parts of Pakistan. Eastern Himalayas comprises of Nepal, West Bengal, Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh. All these states of India are coming under Eastern Himalayas. Himalayas are home to the world's highest mountains, including Mount Everest and deepest river Ganges. So, these two are the lifeline. The Himalayas, they provide habitat to wild number of wild plants also are there, the animals are also there, and the Ganges is also originating from there, which is the lifeline. The agricultural belt below the Himalayas is responsible for the production of the food crop of the entire country. So, this hotspot, there is a good amount of biodiversity in Himalayas if we look at it, because there is a sudden rise of Himalayas from less than 500 meters to today they have risen up to 800 meters. So, because of this sharp trend which has taken place, there is a rich diversity, there are forests, there are alpine vegetation, there are grasslands. So, alluvial grasslands to broadleaf forest along the foothills, then temperate broadleaf forest in the mid hills, and mixed conifer and conifer forest in higher hills, and alpine forest above the tree line are found in the region. So, there is a diversity in the plant in terms of the type of the tree, in terms of the height, and in terms of the animals which they habitat. And of the estimated 10,000 species of plants in the hotspot, about 360 are endemic. So, it shows that there are several plants here which are endemic to this region, and because of the encroachment done by unplanned development, we may lose many of these plant species which are of immense use in medicine, for ecosystem services, for providing food to the people, for maintaining the biological cycle which is there. So, this biodiversity is under threat because of so many factors. Number 1 is population growth. The people have started residing in the mountains, they have started moving towards the mountains as long as they were living before and also, but now the consumption patterns have changed. Because of increase in population, obviously the construction, the building up of roads, the dams are constructed, the houses are constructed, the industries are coming up, and because of this there is a large scale deforestation. And deforestation increases the chances of soil erosion also. When there is a soil erosion, there are chances of floods coming, the soil is let loose, the trees are being cut down, the habitats and the occurrence of the natural disasters, the frequency of the occurrence of the natural disasters also increases in a place where the forests have been cut down. The overgrazing is done by the cattle. It is estimated that the lowland forests will disappear quickly if the current trends of the deforestation and overgrazing, if both of them go simultaneously hand in hand, then we may lose the lowland forests which are found in the Himalayas. Then there is a global warming, as it has been discussed. Because of the rise in temperatures, the glaciers are melting. Because of the melting of the glaciers, there is a change in the pattern of the rivers. The biodiversity adjoining the rivers, the plant life which have been supported by the rivers and the other other land resources which are there, that is under threat. The globalization is taking place because now people have started moving. The demand of the products which are there in the Himalayas have grown everywhere. So, there is always a transportation kind of a thing taking place. So, there is no pristine environment as such which has existed long years back. So, it has just become like a normal place that does not look like the Himalayas which was pristine in the initial times. The poaching of the animals continues. For example, the red panda, the snow leopard, all these types of animals are being hunted for their skin and for the other body parts. So, when there is a killing of the animals taking place, the losing of the forest, automatically the hotspot which we consider as important comes under threat. Mining activities are going on, lot many minerals have been discovered at those places. The mining itself along with it brings it so many disasters, so many consequences, negative consequences particularly on the environment. And there is unplanned and poorly managed tourism. These places inhabit the places of tourist interest, the hill stations are there in these places. Because of the improper management, the places like Dehradun, Rishikesh, these places used to be of serene places where the disturbance, the human disturbance was the minimum, but today they have become commercial entities. That does not look like a place which is above the hills. So, all these factors together are posing a threat to the biodiversity of the hotspot. Then there is Indo-Burma region which extends, which is there in the eastern part of the country, which extends from the Bangladesh and contains the Malaysia and the other parts of the nearby and the adjoining areas. This is one of the most threatened biodiversity hotspots, it is considered. It includes entire northeastern India except Assam and Andaman group of islands. Myanmar is there, Thailand, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia and southern China. So, this is the hotspot which encompasses many countries together. It is also known as Indo-Chinese sub-region, and much of Indo-Burma is characterized by distinct seasonal weather patterns. For example, during the rainy season there is a good rainfall leading to good growth of vegetation. The winters are cold and similarly the summers are harsh. So, this place is characterized by distinct weather conditions, and this distinct weather conditions is responsible for having the complex nature of the biodiversity which is present in this area. Because of this, the variety is there in the plant as well as the animal species. If we look at this, encompassing more than 2 million kilometers square of tropical Asia, Indo-Burma is still revealing its biological treasures. So, still the scientists, the biologists are coming up with the species, the number of species are recorded every time with unique characteristics of their own. The hotspots also holds remarkable endemism in freshwater turtle species, which is the main endemic species of this region. Bird life in Indo-Burma is also incredibly diverse, holding almost 1300 different bird species are found here, including the threatened white-eared night heron, the grey-crowned crocuas and the orange-necked partridge. So, these are some of the threatened species of the bird which are on the verge of the extinction, and this is home to those bird species. And similarly, freshwater turtles, that is finding its use in so many medicines and so many other things, that is endemic to this region. So, any sort of a damage or threat to this hotspot which eventually end up in losing of these valuable species which we are having. If we look at the threats which we are having particular to this region is forest fragmentation. Forest fragmentation is division of the forest due to construction which is done by human beings, and when this fragmentation occurs, it poses a danger in a way that the pollinators who are basically the animals which are responsible for pollinating, they are separated by geographical barriers. So, in the cases when the geographical barriers are there, the forests are fragmented, the biodiversity or the distinct plants, they automatically they start losing and they start non-existing because in the absence of the pollinators. Then there is expansion of agriculture. This was the place where first of all the agriculture began, and the use of fire particularly for clearing of the land was basically started from this region. So, fire, the trees are being burned to clear the land for agriculture. Many times it is done because when the logging occurs, the fallen leaves are there, when they are cut down, basically what happens is that automatically the fire catches, and sometimes it is done intentional also. So, because of expansion of the agriculture, the monocultures are coming up, the tea, coffee plantations, they are coming more and more, giving rise to monocultures and in a way threatening the biodiversity which is existing at these places. Then there is unplanned development. They are containing good number of wetlands. Now, the wetlands are being drained for rice cultivation and other things. At many places, it has been found that the rivers are being dammed. So, when the rivers are dammed, the whole hydrology of the river gets changed. There is a change in the temperature and the flow of the water that's changed, and inner course, the banks of the rivers which can hold important species, they become non-existent and they are under threat because of this. So, it is a kind of an example of unplanned development which we see. Similarly, mangroves are also there in this region. Now, whatever the mangroves are present, they are diverted for shrimp crop farming and other things, where we are putting in humans interference in the natural settings which already existed there. So, because of undue interference of man in the natural ecosystems, the mangroves, the other wetlands which were there, that kind of a development which does not think about the other aspects of that particular place, particularly the biological wealth, that becomes a threat. Because once a region is rich in soil, if it is rich in minerals, if it is rich, it is a good producing region, automatically the attention goes towards the commercial benefits of that region. So, automatically in that sense, the biodiversity gets a setback. Then there is a wildlife trade, as it has been discussed. The turtles are there, the snakes are there, the very important animal species are there. Now, these animal species are finding their use in medicines. The body parts are used, the skin of these animals is used, and most importantly, they are exported to other countries, to other places where they have a good demand. So, this wildlife trade particularly is posing a danger to the animals who are living there. So, this is one of the most important factor in this region, that it contains very good amount of fauna, and the trade of these, particularly the turtles and the snakes and the tigers, whatever is happening, that is leading to the loss of biodiversity in this region. Then overfishing and use of destructive fishing techniques, whatever the fishing techniques is being used, which is laden with chemicals or other things which we are using, that is posing a danger to the aquatic life. So, aquatic life is disturbed, automatically it also helps to reduces the chances of their regeneration, and in a way it causes a loss of the species which are found there in the aquatic regions. The whole aquatic environment gets disturbed. Moving on further is the Western Ghats. They are also known as the Sahyadri Hills. It is 1600 kilometers of a chain of hills is there in the peninsular India, and it is considered to be the hottest hotspot because of its complex geology and geography. It boasts a good amount of plant and the animal species. It is also declared as an heritage site by UNESCO. It is the most important states, and 6 states of India come under this: Kerala, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Goa, Maharashtra and Gujarat. Now, these 6 states are included in Western Ghats, and they are home to unique plant, the forests are dense, and the faunal life is also commending. This is also known as Sahyadri Hills, as it has been said. It is well known for their rich and unique assemblage of flora and fauna. With less than 6% of the land area of India, it contains more than 30% of all fish, bird, plant and the animal species. So, the area is considered, as it has been said, it is the hottest hotspot comprising of the diverse plant and the animal species. And directly or indirectly, it supports the livelihoods of over 200 million people through ecosystem services. So, that gives an impression that these hotspots are also important from the socio-economic point of view, because if it is an agricultural land, if it is a forestry operations, if it is an aquaculture, if it is marine resources, if the hotspot, or particularly if we talk about the Western Ghats, they are having a interference in lot many occupations, the livelihoods of the people. So, it is providing livelihood to 200 million people who are living in those areas. They may be indulged in agriculture, horticulture, plantation or in fishing or any other kind of occupation. So, destruction to this hotspot or losing of the variety here will also mean a negative effect on the livelihood, and the socio-economic life of the people may also get disturbed if we are posing danger to this place. Biodiversity in Western Ghats, it comprises of wide variety of forest types such as tropical wet evergreen, montane stunted evergreen, moist deciduous, dry deciduous and dry thorn forests and grasslands. So, this clearly explains that here we have wet evergreen forest also and we have dry thorn forest also. We have dense forest also and we have grasslands also. That is simply because of the geographical patterns, the proximity to the oceans is there, and because of the length, the hills which are there, there are diversity of climatic conditions, and that diversity of climatic conditions is giving rise to diverse kind of vegetation forms in this region. If you look at the faunal life, there are population of Asian elephants, Indian tigers and the endangered lion-tailed macaw is also present in this region. Freshwater fish endemism is extremely high as well, with over 140 native species. Similar to the other places, this intense population pressure is there, conversion of forest into agricultural land, sand mining and quarrying activities, increasing human wildlife contact, because in the protected areas the human settlements are there, the elephants are coming, the leopards are disturbing the crops. So, in the protection itself the people are killing the wildlife in these places. The spread of invasive species, particularly Lantania, Parthenium, in the water bodies, Hydrilla, Eichhornia, all these plant species are being spread and they are becoming a threat. Impact of climate change, as it is there with other hotspots, it is evident in this place also. This is the last one, Sundaland hotspot, which includes the islands of Sumatra, Java and Borneo. It comprises of mostly the islands, the Nicobar Islands are there in this region. The Sundaland biodiversity hotspot is located in Southeast Asia, including Nicobar group of islands. The Sundaland hotspot covers the western half of the Indo-Malayan archipelago. It is located between Pacific and Indian Ocean and bridges the continents of Asia and Australia. More than a million years ago, Sundaland and its islands were connected to Asia. If you look at the biodiversity in this region, it is one of the biologically richest hotspot on the earth and it holds 25,000 species of vascular plants and 60% of which are found nowhere else. There are at least 117 endemic plant genera in the hotspot. 59 of these are endemic genera found in Borneo, 17 in Sumatra and 41 on the Malay Peninsula. This is the single tree species of the genus Caicophostegia found in Borneo, and Rafflesia arnoldi, it is having the largest flower in the world. It is also present in this place only. So, we have the two unique plants inhabiting in this area, which is of important concern. If we look at the threats, this industrial forestry, wildlife trade, forest fires, climate change challenges and political instability are the main thing. A hotspot concept is important for the scientific analysis takes place, the investment is carried out and it has entered as a mainstream for private sector business. The people are coming up and caring for the assets which are there. In the hope spots also, these are the areas demarcated in oceans by scientists for having unique ecological attributes that make them specially deserving of conservation. The Indian hotspots are facing sustainability problems being densely populated regions. The regions must be protected and some suitable mechanism must be derived to protect the hotspots. So, basic idea behind the conservation of the hotspot is that the sustainability feature should be taken. Because of increasing population and because of the unplanned development which is taking place, the hotspots are in danger. So, we have to look at the sustainability aspect, we have to look whether whatever benefits we are getting out of these hotspots, are we able to replenish them, are we able to maintain them forever for their use.